Hi, everyone. Hello and welcome. We are so happy you could join us for today's webinar, Constructing a Connected Quality System, a Journey to a Unified EQMS. So I'm excited to have Christian Elliott, Quality Director of Kingspan, join us today. Welcome, Christian, and thank you for joining us. And I'm Jennifer Bianchini, a Senior Product Marketing Manager at ETQ. So we're going to take a quick look at the agenda. First, we'll go over some quality management challenges that can occur. They can happen all the time, or it's a one off that is critical to your organization's bottom line. And then there is what you should take into consideration when you're assessing an EQMS for your organization. Then Christian will share Kingspan's journey to transform quality. And then we'll do a quick wrap up so we'll have plenty of time to answer your questions. So don't be shy. Enter those questions into the chat. This time is for you, helping you to be a quality champion. So let's dive in now, shall we? Okay. So let's break this down and look at some of the common challenges we see with customers today. And maybe you are facing some of them as well. So there's manual systems. Here we're talking about paper, information that may be stuck in a filing cabinet and it's not easily accessible to those who need it when they need it. And then there are siloed systems. And this is everything from spreadsheets to SharePoint. You have information that is it's hard to share. It's hard for people to get their hands on. And you with that limited integration with other business systems, it doesn't help. It's a contributing factor. Next, it's not having the visibility that you need into the data. It's difficult to spot quality trends or provide management teams with reporting. And then there is an efficiency. So I think the best way to sum that up is we once had a customer tell us, I just want to store the document. So systems, they're not flexible and they're not user friendly. And then wrapping this all up is version control issues. So you have multiple revisions that are floating around. It's not easy to know which one is the most up to date, which one is the most correct one, or which one has been approved to refer to. So these are just a few examples, but overall, taking them into consideration, they make quality processes frustrating and inefficient. But there is a better way, and it's a quality management system. So let's talk about building a game plan for planning and implementing and getting an EQMS into place within your organization. Okay, so I'm sure many of you know ISO 9001. It is the most widely accepted QMS framework. It helps to improve customer satisfaction by driving consistent quality, guided by its 7 principles. So you can think of these principles as your roadmap, let's say, when assessing a QMS. So they make quality a company wide priority. It's not just a quality department responsibility. So let's dig into these a little bit. So let's start with looking at customer focus. You'll want to be customer centric to build satisfaction and loyalty. And then looking at leadership. These will align purposes and direction. They create an environment where people can achieve their goals. And then there is engagement of people. So here, you'll want to ensure staff feels valued and they understand their role and can communicate openly. Next, we have a process approach. So here it's about using consistency, interconnected processes, so you get those predictable results. And then let's not forget to look at improvements along the way. So focus on continuous improvement, root cause analysis, and innovation to stay agile. Then we have making grounded decisions in data. So, no assumptions. You're going to have evidence based decision making. And then rounding this up is relationship management. So, you're going to extend quality to your partners, to your suppliers to increase customer value. So, these 7 principles are a practical, proven guide to begin your QMS journey. Okay, so we've got that foundation now of ISO 9001, the 7 principles. So now you can start mapping out your journey for a quality management system. So we recommend to break it down into 4 doable steps. So it doesn't seem like this really big, daunting project that you have to take on. So let's take a look at the first step, and that is assess your current state of quality today. So take a look, review. How is it managed? Where do the documents live? How are changes communicated? And error rates. Don't forget when you're doing this to also identify opportunities for automating processes and for system integration, say, for example, with your ERP or your CRM. So make sure you are capturing what's working well on top of this so that can be built upon. For the next step, you're going to take a look at determining your needs. So here you'll want to be the quality champion. You got your quality champion hat on, and you're going to share your findings across other departments. So while doing this, you'll also be gathering feedback from them and on from their teams and how they are managing quality with that. And then once you gather all of this information, you can now build out a blueprint for a QMS that shows how quality delivers a strategic value to your organization. And then we have step 3. So here you're going to be setting your priorities and your goals. So you're going to define what does success look like with those short-term wins and then that long-term scalability. So you'll want to here make sure you are prioritizing your KPIs for document control, CAPA, and supplier quality. You'll want to evaluate the QMS options that you have that will scale and automate effectively for your organization. Okay, so the final and fourth step here, you're going to build your business case. So, how do you do that? You're going to present an ROI very clearly to leadership. And you're going to focus on those hard cost savings. So that's reducing waste, warranty cost, field failure. So you're going to focus on those numbers and the ROI for that. And also, while you're doing this, don't forget to show the risk if you don't invest in a QMS. So you're going to engage with these key stakeholders, your CFO, your COO, and even IT, for example, with a focus on the bottom line impact that quality has on your organization. All right. So now I'm excited to turn it over to Christian. I'm really looking forward to hearing about Kingspan's quality journey. Christian, over to you.
Thanks, Jennifer. And good morning to everybody. Good afternoon from the UK, which is where I am sat at the moment. This is my favorite picture of all time of me. So I'm not a very good self-promoter, I'm afraid. So this makes me uncomfortable, this slide. I'm the Director of Quality and Management Systems for Kingspan Insulation. I cover the entire division. And insulation is a division within Kingspan Group, which is a much larger company. I have 5 years in my current role and 9 years overall with Kingspan. I decided 5 years ago to move out of the Kingspan arena and move somewhere else. And the grass is not always greener, so I was welcomed back into the business and joined in this current role. Previously, I was the quality manager for a particular business unit within our division. I've got 20 plus years in quality and continual improvement across steel and aluminium, automotive, defense, nuclear. So quite a breadth of experience in terms of the regulations and legislations required. And I'm very passionate about how we put frameworks in place, how processes can support us, and how the systems that all underpin those are fundamental to the success of our management system. Now, for a lot of the people that are on the call, I would imagine you already have a management system. You already either have 9001 or one of the other standards in a different industry, which builds on that 9001. So you're not starting from scratch, and it's probably harder for you to start from where you are than to build a complete management system from scratch, because there's lots of best practice out there. So I'm going to talk you through our journey over the next few slides. I'm going to give you a bit more information on Kingspan as a business before I do that. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that we did well, some of the things that we could have done better, and where we are on our journey, because we are still on that journey. And I fully expect us to be on that journey for the next several years, because we've got a lot of change to make. There's obviously a forthcoming change to the 9001 standard expected next year, as well as lots of industry changes for us personally and globally in terms of how markets change and the geopolitics of the world right now. KIMS, sorry, Liz, just go back to that one. KIMS is our acronym for our management system, Kingspan Insulation Management System. So if I refer to it as KIMS, that's what I'm talking about. And I own the entire system. So the integrated portion of that is 9001, 14,001, 45,001, and 50,001. We also have a 37301 certification program as well, which sits to the side, but as a partner to those 4 standards. And we run a multi-site certification program. If anybody wants to talk to me about that separately, that's fine. We've got quite a lot of experience in that. Okay, thanks. So what we do as Kingspan Insulation is we provide insulation materials for the full building envelope. We're very focused on what we call Planet Passionate, which is our green initiatives and our conscious reduction of energy usage, implementation of sustainable materials, and movement into those spaces. We look at a number of different product types and technologies behind those product types, and we pride ourselves on our technological innovation, the speed with which we can get to market, and more recently, the commitment to our compliance with the standards that you see there: quality, health, safety, environmental, energy, and compliance. That's really important for us. It has been really important for a long time, but it's certainly come to the fore for us in the last 5 or 6 years, and we base a lot of our decisions around compliance. You just move on to the next one, please. So our footprint is global. We are predominantly in Europe, as you can see from that sort of central circle there. We have 45 locations across the world, as far west as Minneapolis and as far east as Auckland in New Zealand. We have sites in Australia, Malaysia, the Middle East, and throughout Europe, North, South, East, and West. As I said before, I'm based in the UK, but I cover all of these locations, and we are split into a number of business units. Generally, they are geographical, but sometimes they're also technology and product based, but more or less geographical. So UK and Ireland is one business unit, for example. North America is another. Okay. And this is what we do. So you may have seen these on your travels to your local home improvement store or DIY store, in a builder's merchant, or you might have seen them on the road or in a construction site. We make materials for as I said, the building envelope, so roof, wall, and floor. Green Guard is probably the most familiar in North America. Cooltherm and Therma are the ones that we promote and sell the most of in the rest of the world. We do house wrap. We do structural buildings. Those we refer to that as structurally insulated panels. In Europe, mainland Europe, we do district heating. So this is pipework, insulated pipework that goes from a central boiler to areas around a town or a village or a city. We do technical insulation, which is this services and service insulation. So cold duty and hot duty, so cryogenics there. We've recently moved into the passive fire space in the last 5-6 years, so with intumescent materials and other passive fire products, and acoustic panels from a particular area in Denmark, which is a wood fiber based. So there's quite a breadth of materials there, and we've got experience across that envelope. Kingspan itself began life in 1963 in Ireland, and we are very Ireland based across the group. But we've been doing this for a long time, and we've grown primarily through acquisition, but also through that technological advancement. Okay, so our project, our ETQ project, as Jennifer mentioned before, it's a challenge to get your C-suite to sign off on a quality project. I can't see everybody's heads either nodding in agreement or raising your eyebrows, but that's certainly my experience over my career. Is getting a quality project signed off is often quite difficult because you're talking about prevention in most cases, and that ROI is more difficult to pin down than something where you're obtaining a clear increase in sales or cost reduction in manufacturing process, etc. So it brings a different challenge. So it was clear for us that we needed to define the problem and understand that from a technical standpoint as a quality team. And I should probably preface this with, this was led by me, but it was supported and endorsed by other people around the business, including our quality directors in the different business units and our management system representatives across different sites. So we sort of came together and decided what was important to us, but then we sort of had to look at it from other perspectives, and I think empathize is perhaps the wrong word, but I'll use it anyway. Empathize with what our managing directors and ops directors, sales and commercial people would engage with. So it's very easy to get bogged down in the technical side of things as a quality person, and that was a trap we didn't want to fall into. Excuse me. We needed to offer a solution to people. So this admiration of the problem is a phrase I use quite a lot. It's great to identify an issue. It's not great to stand back and then point at it. So once we've identified what the need is, and once we identified what the need was, we had to then answer the so what question. Okay, so what? How do we fix it? And that's what we came up with. We built a big business requirements document, which I'm going to talk to on the next slide in a little bit more detail. But that's really where we started. So we started with the what's the problem and how do we solve it? And moving on from that, we wanted to involve everybody. So to get that buy-in, to get that engagement, so of those 7 principles that Jennifer mentioned, there's leadership and there's engagement as sort of a core to this challenge. We already had the leadership from the quality aspect. We needed to engage the leadership from the non-quality side of things. And in order to do that, we put the team that was going to do the selection process together from across multiple disciplines and multiple business units. So that's what that's how we built that team. Jennifer also talked in the first slide, I think it was, about silos, lack of connectedness, different versions of the truth, and that's really what these next few points are about. We've grown through acquisition. We've implemented management system software in various locations, but not in a global way, and it still is. We're still in the foothills of this journey. It's very difficult to see information in one place, and it was less easy to control things. So the solution was pretty clear that we needed a modern, connected, easy to use system that anybody could dip in and out of, because my sort of personal philosophy around this is the end user shouldn't really know or care what system they're using. They should just be able to get in there and use it, and that's what we were looking for. We also wanted to establish accountability. So it's very easy, and again, many of you on the call may have experienced this, that it's very easy for the management system representative or the quality person to be carrying everything, because, well, if there's a failure, if there's a deviation, if there's a non-conformity, well, it's a quality issue. It's not, it's an everybody issue. And we've got to determine who owns it, who's going to solve the problem, and how quality can facilitate and support that. And again, that's what we wanted to do with this platform. It was an opportunity for us to reinvigorate and re-educate people. And we are still doing that. We're still in that process. And that's partly what my background is about. Okay. So the project was an opportunity to engage every department in every region. So our sponsor was actually the ops director. It wasn't the quality and compliance director, who is directly above me, between me and the overall managing director. The project manager was myself, and we selected that team of people. So the term hand selected here is very important, because those people had to engage and they also had to understand. Some of them from a base of very little, so they had to get some education along the way. The expectation setting here was all about being clear on where we wanted to go. I cannot stress enough how important a business requirements document is to a project like this. Our BRD ran to something like 30, 40 pages, 70 odd selection criteria, classed as primary and secondary. an explanation of the potential savings, so some of that ROI in there, and a number of other areas. And I'm happy if people want to see what we've done with that. I'm happy to share a version of that if that's something that anybody might be interested in. So we looked at what the process was as is and what we wanted it to be, and then we obviously put a timeline against the project. After we'd done that, and after we'd set the expectation of what we wanted, we had to go out to the market and look what was there. You all may already know what's out there. You may not, and it's often quite difficult to find information. It's often quite difficult to get some demonstrations of the capabilities of things. Sorry, I'll keep muting my mic when I cough, just so I don't deafen anybody. So what we did was we used 3 of the existing vendors that we had around the different business units, and we pulled in 5 externals that we identified as potential candidates, ETQ being one of them. And we put an objective evaluation together. It was a multi-tier evaluation, and what we did was invite all the vendors, as we said here, invite all the vendors to self-assess, which gave us a graphical representation of how people thought they would perform against our key criteria. We ranked these and we weighted them, which the vendors did not know. And what the weighting did was amplify the result. So it didn't make any significant changes to the front runners, but it did increase the gap between the top 3 and the bottom 5. From that point, we then did some further assessment. We asked for hands-on demonstrations, which were not often forthcoming from those vendors that we'd selected, and that was another sort of unexpected differentiator. And after which we then went through as a team. There were 12 people on the team. As a team, we went through and assessed against the checklist. So once we'd done all the demonstrations, once we got all the data together and gathered it and done some analytics, each of the team members, including myself and the sponsor, scored each of the shortlists. I think we initially shortlisted 5, and then we went down to 4. So of the shortlist, there was a clear winner, and that's why we're here today. And ETQ was that winner. So that's who we went with. Excuse me. But that was really the starting point for us. Getting the project approved, getting the people in line to do the assessment, and getting the vendors in line to assess, putting some objective measurement against them, and then finding a result was really our starting point. The real project started when we'd selected ETQ as our vendor and we went into implementation. We wanted, and we still want to, we are in the process of implementing across the entire division. You all may have seen the breadth of capability that the ETQ platform has, and it's very easy for you to be a little bit kid in a squeak shop and want to put everything in all at once. Your support through the company will advise you that that's not the best way to go, and it isn't the best way to go. Your best route is to target what you want to solve first. There are some basics to get in place, and in order to have a successful and realistic rollout, you need to set some expectation. Excuse me. So our first step was to communicate with everybody. So it's a big change to move across from SharePoint, Excel, bespoke and proprietary platforms, and various other things that people may or may not be using, and they may or may not be using effectively or properly. So it's telling people what you need them to do and how they're going to contribute and how it's going to be better for them. That's part of your internal marketing, but you've got to set some rules and set some boundaries. One of the things that we needed to do in relation to that communication was identify a champion in each business unit. So those champions were people who we could count on to be engaged, who were motivated, enthusiastic, and with some influence. And their role was really to promote in their business on a more frequent basis than I could or my team could, from a divisional perspective, because of the oversight that we have over so many different areas and different locations. So what we did was we picked 4 applications to start with, and we rolled out business unit by business unit. So we engaged all the champions first and put a timeline together with those champions and those business units. We selected, to start with, the business units that were most mature in their management systems. I would say that that's not necessarily the right route to go. You get more understanding from most of the users, but you've also got a lot of embedded attitudes and behaviors and cultures which are harder to unpick from starting with 0 or almost 0. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. There's just a different approach with each. We're still rolling out. We're just about 12 months into our rollout plan. We have rolled out 1 application everywhere, which is dot control. Dot control is pretty easy, but in my experience, that's not where you get your return on investment from. You get it from other applications where you can see some real-time metrics and decision making. Your DMS is going to stop you from getting any significant audit findings from an external audit, in my view. But other than that, it's useful, but it's not the driver for savings. So we started our rollout. We then started to engage our users and super users. Our admins were already identified during the project process or the selection process. Role setting and permission setting is very important. I don't think we've got that 100% right yet, but we're almost there, and it's a learning curve, especially when you don't know what's going on inside the system when you start to use it or when you start to implement. So that's something we would potentially do differently. We needed a clear path for people to raise issues, which we've developed, and we are continuing to develop, so they can flag a problem or a question. We've set the expectations, and that's part of the communications, really. It's setting people's expectations on, this is when you're going to be using this by. This other system is going to be switched off, or you're going to have limited access to it from this date. Some basic stuff, but often gets missed. And we also have regular interaction opportunities. We have a regular all IMS KIMS representatives meeting every month. We have quarterly quality council meetings with the heads of quality, and we've got various other meetings across regions and the division to capture information from people and to drive the use of the system. So it's all about sort of that drip feeding of oh, you need to record your information in here, or you need to manage that through this platform. I talked about phased approach just before. We split by region, site, and application. We're still doing that, and we will continue to do it in that way. It's still very easy to see a shiny new application and want to implement it straight away, and you've got to be pretty disciplined not to do that. And training really is the key here. You train it out initially, you do your configuration, you've got a lovely, nice, shiny system, you've got the keys to, and you need everybody to use it. There are so many training platforms out there these days that can be utilized. Face-to-face training, in my view, is the best because people can ask you direct questions. Teams training is a close second, but all the AI-driven video training that is available and is easy to configure these days is incredibly powerful. We're only scratching the surface of that just now, and that's something I'm going to be exploring into 2026 because I think there's real value there. But it's continued training, it's follow up with people. It's oftentimes I will be on site. I travel a lot to different sites. I'll be on site, and somebody will tap me on the shoulder, and I'll sit with them for 30 minutes to walk them through a particular problem that they might be having. And it's usually because they haven't used the system before, or they've forgotten because they've used it once or twice, and it's just not become a habit for them. And that's again me doing a bit of communication, championing, and then doing all that training. And the final piece is really about how you communicate what you're going to do next. So we always had a phased approach in the sense of business units, but we also had a phased approach in terms of which applications are we going to be introducing and when. So we started, I think I mentioned dot control. I didn't mention the other areas that we were introducing. So dot control, CAPA, audit. So those are the sort of I guess the holy trinity of quality. We also introduced accident and incident reporting, primarily because that is an investor-led metric for us. It goes to our group, and we want everybody to do it in the same way, and we want our health and safety, divisional health and safety manager to be able to interrogate that information in real time. He's got some very quick decisions to make, especially if there are lost time accidents involved. We also wanted to introduce the supplier quality applications, which we are just doing now on timeline. And we've recently put in place asset management and calibration for quality assets only. And we are in Q1 of next year going to put in non-conformance reporting, which will be focused on customer complaints. Sorry, excuse me. So we have a timeline for this. It's not in the slide pack, but we have a timeline, and it's important for you to share this with your colleagues and your other functions, because it gives them an idea of what your strategy is and how they're going to be involved. And if you need that involvement, especially for us in terms of our procurement and supply chain, they need to know when they need to be available. And it also gives you a bit of an ability to focus on that ROI question as to when you're going to be adding in that functionality that's going to give you some of those key cost savings. So all that being said, that's the end of those few slides. This is our This is our quality mantra and our 5 quality principles, which we introduced sometime last year. So if anyone has any questions, fire away.
All right. Thank you, Christian. Thanks for sharing and being here while you're a little bit under the weather. So really appreciate that.
I apologize. I apologize for all the coughing.
No worries. Hey, it happens to all of us. All right. So you had some really great nuggets of information in there. I really appreciate you getting into the details. I think everyone got some really great tips. So, if anyone still has any questions for Christian, go ahead and drop them into the chat. We're going to get into those. But first, I'd like to just take a quick moment and share a little bit more about ETQ with you. As I'm sure you all are aware, there are a lot of phases to the QMS journey. But no matter where you are in your journey at ETQ, we are ready to help you. We have a comprehensive purpose built QMS where you can reduce costs, streamline operations, and build compliance into your processes. And these all result in improved efficiencies, time to market, sustainability, and bottom line results. We also offer a range of professional services, including managed services, to meet your needs at any stage of your quality journey. So, as you can see with ETQ, you are in good company. We serve hundreds of customers of all shapes and sizes across many industries, and we apply the learnings and the best practices from across all of these industries to provide a unique value to our customers. And we've been doing it for over 30 years. ETQ has been empowering quality champions just like you to use quality management as a catalyst for business success. And we also aim to be a trusted advisor to our customers. And we'd love to have the opportunity to share our expertise with you. Also, we are a part of Hexagon, a global leader in sensor software and autonomous manufacturing solutions. All right. So here we are at the good part. So thank you for letting me share a little bit more about ETQ with you. We are now at the part of our webinar for our questions. So I'm going to see what has come through in the chat. And Christian, are you ready? All right.
Always. You just didn't have my camera switched on.
Okay. Well, so Christian, there's a question that came in here about sharing the 68 requirements that you had on your list. I don't think we have time to go through all 68 of them, but maybe a high summary overview of maybe what some of those requirements are, and maybe if folks are really interested, they could follow up with you after this webinar.
Sure. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I'm happy to share this with people. I mean, there'll be certain things that we'll need to redact. So our business. So there's another couple of questions regarding the business requirements document here as well. So we talked about objectives and background in it, and primarily we're looking at scope and functionality. So we split the functionality into primary and secondary functionality, and then further down from that we went through so the doc management, information management side of things, and subdivided that. Went through supplier assurance, audit management, action management, so slightly different there. Health, safety, environmental reporting, what we wanted from the mobile side and what we wanted from data analytics. So those were our primaries. Then we looked at what else we could do, what else we might want to do, and we also looked at the out of scope. So I can give you, I'm just scrolling through it now, which is why I'm sort of stuttering along a little bit. So we looked at we wanted a repository for all critical business process documentation. That's number one. functional areas to be able to interact with each other. So we didn't want a system. So again, to reference what you said before, Jennifer, we didn't want a siloed system where the doc control was in it, but nothing else. And we couldn't reference, say, documents that were identified as part of an audit finding that needed to be changed. So clear ownership was one of our requirements. There's a lot around doc control. We wanted risk and criticality based audit scheduling. We wanted to be able to create audit checklists. So these are all functions that ETQ fulfills very well. We wanted to be able to implement supplier performance management and be able to customize that. I can go through a bundle of these, but I think that gives you a bit of an idea. But yeah, like I say, I'm happy to share a redacted version of that with any sort of key sensitive business information that's either removed or redacted.
Yeah, I think everyone will appreciate that because there are a couple other questions from folks in the audience asking, if you could share more information about your business requirement document. But I think you've done a great job here of highlighting that and following up with people. Here's an interesting question from Sharon. If you were doing it again, would you pick just one site to implement it first so that the company can learn what went well? And what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I'd have a much bigger team. That's what I would do differently. Um, would we implement it on one site or on the way we did it? So I don't think we would implement on one site. And the reason I don't think we would do that, given 1,000 opportunities to do it again, is because in business unit terms, they're very closely linked together. And in divisional terms, our multi-site approach to the management system. So I always describe it like an umbrella, and the divisional sort of activities and information is the umbrella itself, and it's the protection. It's the bit that stops you getting wet. And underneath it sits the regions and the sites, and we get more detailed as we go into the nitty-gritty of the site management. But there's lots of commonality with those high-level divisional documents, and then there's more commonality in a business unit with their documented information and their approaches to managing their particular processes. We might pick a different business unit to start with, but we wouldn't go on a site basis. So we pilot in a maybe a smaller business unit. But
Okay.
this is why I said I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to this, because each approach has its pros and cons, and I guess it's what your senior leadership is expecting out of that first year of implementation. If they're expecting you to solve the problems of the world, a single site isn't really going to cut it.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great feedback. Appreciate that. So here's a question about continuous improvement. How important was continuous improvement in your selection criteria for an EQMS?
I'm not sure I understand the the root of the question.
So, yeah, okay.
So I can answer it in the way I think it's being asked, but so if the person that asked it wants to elaborate, that'd be great.
Okay.
Um, but first pass of an answer at this, the CAPA process was based on our internal continual improvement directors process. So we were mindful of continual improvement. We are mindful of continual improvement across the management system because it underpins all of the different management system standards. I don't know if there's something else you want me to answer against that one. So if you could
Yes, I'm scrolling.
clarify.
I don't see a follow-up, but I think
It's
that's it.
okay, but
Yeah, it's
give
just
you a
pass
few
through
minutes
it now.
to type it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so here's a question. So how well have you adopted the QM review using ETQ across the whole organization?
QM review being
Quality
um
management. Yeah.
being management review, being the clause 9
Yeah,
management review.
yeah, I think this is getting the EQMS review of it across the organization. Maybe if whoever the person asked that question could clarify a little bit on that too.
Yeah, please, because so I'm just having a think about this one. So we have a standard management review approach for our multi-site site. So we of the 43 sites, 23 are in their own multi-site, which means that there's a central function which is division, and each site has its own certification. It's managed locally, but there's central control. We have another multi-site of 7 sites, and everywhere else has its own individual certification. So we one of my roles is to consolidate all of this. I don't know if there's a reference to like meeting and task management in ETQ and those applications, if that's what that means.
Oh, we have a follow-up. Sorry to interrupt
Aha,
you. Yes,
okay.
for QM review as an ISO 9001 standard requirement.
Yeah, okay. So you mean so your management review 9 point, this is testing my knowledge, 9.2, 9.3, whichever it is. Um, it doesn't it doesn't directly um it doesn't direct I can't see the question now, but it doesn't directly uh impact us. Um, we're better able to put metrics against certain parts of certain clauses, but I wouldn't be using ETQ as a driver for management review. That for me, that's not the value. Um, and I always say to people, your management review, you do your management review every day, or you certainly do it every week and every month and every quarter. It's just how you demonstrate that. That's something that we're working on internally at the moment, because historically it's always been a meeting and it's always been very, very long. And I don't believe in that. I think it should leverage what you already do, because that's how you, again, to use the terminology that you were using earlier on, that's how you engage people. So
Mhm.
if you're already having a senior leadership team meeting about all the aspects of management review, you're having your management review. You just might not call it that, and you don't need to. Um, you're better able to brief out your management review procedure using dot control. You can manage it through task management if that's the way you desire to do it. We don't use task management at this time. Um, so that was a long-winded way of me saying I don't really use it for that. Sorry.
No worries. Well, I think this question's a little bit more straightforward. What was the biggest challenge that you faced with this whole entire process with implementing it and the journey that you took? And how were you able to address that challenge?
Um, it's hard to pick one challenge because there have been many. Initially, it was getting people to understand why we wanted to do this rather than use the creaking systems that we already had in place, for the reasons that I mentioned previously, and many more reasons. It was understanding what those people in those C-suite positions understood to be important, which for most of us on this call uh, are not the same. So that was the first one. It was just getting the project off the ground. The next was getting the cost sorted. Similarly, that return on investment is, we can prevent all of this from happening.
Hmm.
We can see better data. Okay, but so what? We can see the data already. Yeah, but you've got people that are building those packs of data for days on end, very, very regularly, so we can cut all that out. And then really it's the continuation of getting people to use it. Once it's embedded in there, once you've got a system that's embedded, it's relatively easy. Getting the system embedded in the first place is a continuous drip, drip, drip. That's why I said training, 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 because at every opportunity you need to be pushing it out to people. So, I'd say those are the three big ones. The first hurdle was getting the buy-in from senior leadership.
Yeah, I agree. Getting that user adoption is really critical. Um, Here's a question for you. What was the criteria for selecting your champions throughout the organization?
Um, but they had to be people that would talk to me for a start. So that rules out quite a lot of our organization. Um, I think we didn't have any specific criteria. We didn't have any sort of written objective criteria here. Um, we went through the quality organization. They weren't all quality people. We went through the operations organization. I think we went through. Uh, we might have gone through some salespeople. They were primarily quality, compliance, and operations people, and they were people that pick things up easily. So these are sort of general traits. Pick things up easily, wanted to learn new things, were able to understand concepts before they understood practice and practical application, and were people that could, I mean, joking aside, people that could be talked to.
Hmm.
So it was really that they were approachable, certainly from my side, but also approachable from their own business unit side, in order to have people be able to ask them questions without feeling intimidated.
Yeah, that's a really good point. How them being approachable, people feeling comfortable coming up to them if they're
Yeah.
having any challenges with the new system. And thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
Here's a question I think is interesting because I don't see it often about IT. So how much interaction were you required to have with your internal IT department for implementing the QMS? So the question here is, was it daily, weekly, once a month, or never? You didn't have to involve them.
Well, it is a very good question, actually. Um, how much interaction? A lot, because we did a lot of data migration. Not as much as other people. I mean, I know people that are doing like millions of lines of data migration. Um, we didn't do that, but the amount we did was enough, and we're still doing it. Um, because of the cloudness. I don't know if that's a thing. Because of the cloudness of the platform, there's not so much of a touch. So we had to build the SSO side of things. We had to make sure that we met certain internal IT security requirements, which you guys do, um, and it had to go through our IT internal approval. But in terms of how much interaction, my interaction was with one or two people primarily, and that was once we'd done all the configuration. So it was initially get it signed off by the head of IT, and he was actually one of the one of the team members. So
Okay.
that's how you get your IT involvement. So he was one of the team members. So he knew it was coming. I'd already spoken to him before we kicked the project off, and it's useful to have that contact. But in terms of the technical aspects of IT, not so much. We still have um, I don't speak to Chris all that much since we've done most of the migration, but Chris is our guy who handles the sort of the connections. I am struggling with our internal people about SAP integration. And I would say it's more because of our IT structure and how we as a business interact with them than it is anything else.
Mhm.
So it's fluctuated over the timeline of the project is an unhelpful answer, but you know.
No,
I-
thank you for that. And
okay.
you know what? We've reached the point in our webinar where unfortunately we need to end because and I feel bad because there are so many great questions that I'd love to get through. So people, I have a couple questions in here. Christian, people are asking if you can share your contact information
Yeah,
offline.
sure.
Seems like a lot of people are in the process of or getting ready to go through what you've already gone through at Kingspan. So if you're open to doing that, and I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. And thank you to everyone who attended our webinar today and all the questions. Great information here. So I know a recording will be sent afterwards in a follow up email, and maybe in there we can put Christian's follow up information. But thank
Sure.
you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Okay. Jennifer, just one thing. You can find me on LinkedIn, so if people want to find me there, that's
Okay.
fine. It's no problem.
Thank you. Christian's on LinkedIn, everyone. Thanks, everyone.